We have a massive Jays trade update to go over today, as folks, it is officially the day. We are now just hours away from the trade deadline, and we have a ton of news to go over today surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays plans, as it is just hours until the end of the deadline. I'm going to break that down, as well as discuss some other interesting notes surrounding across the MLB regarding trades that have huge implications going forward, as this is going to be the craziest day so far of the season, and arguably the craziest trade deadline and day in years for this Toronto Blue Jays team, given the stakes and where the team currently lies in first place in the AL East. But before we get into it all, folks, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. Your guys' support has been absolutely unbelievable. If you want to help us towards our big goal of 20,000 subscribers, you guys have been absolute beasts with the support. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Folks, a lot to go over today, and obviously it is a massive day for us Jays fans. It is a massive day for MLB fans in general, and it's one I've been waiting for a very long time, and that is the trade deadline. This is the last chance for this Toronto Blue Jays team and for Ross Atkins to show what they can, or rather what Ross Atkins can do here at the deadline. And let's dive into it. We have a lot of different reports, and let's start with this one. Now, I had a video late last night talking about how Steven Matz would make a ton of sense for the Blue Jays and how I think they're going to get Ryan Helsley. Last night was absolutely crazy. Eugenio Suarez gone, traded to the Mariners of all teams, who look very scary now. Ryan Helsley gone, traded to the Mets. You have Steven Matz gone, traded as well to the Boston Red Sox, I believe it was, for their 17th ranked prospect. But this report still is very interesting. Phil Maton and Steven Matz will not fly with the team. And of course, the first domino has fallen here with Steven Matz. He was a swing guy I thought the Jays were going to pursue, maybe in a combo deal for Maton. Unfortunately, Matz has gone to the Red Sox, but Phil Maton is not traveling with the team and is going to be traded today. And the Jays have been heavily linked to Maton this trade deadline into late last night. Again, they missed out on Johan Duran. They missed out on Ryan Helsley. They missed out on a lot of the guys. There was also reports we'll dive into later this video surrounding Mason Miller being available, but the Padres heavily pursuing him. But regarding Maton, he is available. Now, Cardinals Live, a guy who, again, not a super reputable reporter, but he's been around for a few years. He's been following the channel at the trade deadline. He's usually right with Cardinals news. He said the Jays are still very much in on Phil Maton, and from what I'm hearing, even Matz. But again, Matz is gone now. He's gone to the Red Sox, whose market seems stronger than 6 months ago. Unfortunately, obviously talking about some Cardinal stuff. His prediction was Matz to LA. He obviously went to the Red Sox. Newt Arenado to the Phillies, but Phil Maton to the Jays. So he predicts Phil Maton to the Jays. And also, I did check the pronunciation. It is Phil Maton. I thought it was Maton or, Maton. It is Phil Maton. So if we get him, I know the pronunciation now, rather. And it's very interesting because we know they're going to, again, the big report came out last night that Phil Maton's not going to be traveling with the team. Same with Matz. Matz was traded last night. Maton, of course, at this time of recording at least, isn't traded yet. He is an elite reliever, like 2.63 ERA or 2.35 ERA this year, 3.66 last year, 3 on the dot the year before. He doesn't throw hard at all, but every other part of his game, aside from his chase rate and his walk percentage, like the K rate, the whiff rate, everything, is elite, right? He does not get hit hard whatsoever. And it's one of those interesting relievers where he's not a fireballer. And you could argue the Jays got their fireballer in Sir Anthony Dominguez, who can touch 100, averages 98 to 99. But like this team has their fireballer, you could argue, and Ryan Helsley's off the board. Johan Duran's off the board. The only other one they could pursue is Mason Miller. He's probably going to be going to the Padres. But at the same time, you look at it from the Jays' perspective, wouldn't getting another guy who is an elite back end of the bullpen guy, I would like this a lot. I think this is an underrated player that not many people are really talking about here. And again, there's reports like he's going to get traded. And with the players that are left and remaining here, the Jays, I think, are either like Ross Atkins is planning something big behind the scenes and going to swing big for a guy like Stephen Kwan, who we'll dive into in a minute, a guy like Dylan Cease, Sandy Alcantara, and guys like that. Even though there's other teams heavily involved in Alcantara, the Houston Astros has at the latest report. It's craziness, by the way, right now. There's so much news, trying to keep you up to date with all of it. But it's interesting. I think Phil Maton is a very intriguing name, and keep an eye out on him. I think he's gonna, I was wrong with the Helsley thing. I'm surprised the Jays actually didn't break beat the Helsley deal, but it kind of makes some sense here. I'm predicting Phil Maton to the Toronto Blue Jays. My prediction was wrong so far, but we'll see if this one is. We'll see if this one's right. Based on all the reports we're hearing, though, I think Phil Maton, it makes the most sense at least. And maybe they'll go out of the ballpark of what we're hearing. And again, Ross Atkins has been moving in silence thus far this trade deadline. So no one really, I mean, we did hear Sir Anthony Dominguez from Hector Gomez. I covered it briefly on the channel last week. And I did say that I did think they were going to get Sir Anthony Dominguez or Gregory Soto. Ultimately landed with Dominguez. But a couple other things to go over here. And let's start with this one. A report also dropped last night surrounding Mitch Keller. And an executive from a team interested in Mitch Keller, granted, obviously being able to be anonymous for his candor, said his teams have not even bothered, or his team rather, has not even bothered to continue its pursuit of the pitcher, citing the Pirates' reluctance to seriously engage. So anyone who thought, the Jays were going to be pursuing Mitch Keller, we don't know for sure if the Jays were the team here that they're referring to, but pretty confident, like, it probably are, but even if it isn't the Jays, they haven't even bothered to offer a package because of how ridiculous the asking price is. And if I'm the Jays, I'm happy. Like, as a Jays fan, I'm happy about this. Mitch Keller would not push them over the top, and clearly they're going to be, if they're going to go for him, he wouldn't, start a playoff game for him, or at least if they would, it wouldn't be a huge upgrade over the other ones. So it's interesting there. David Bednar of the Pirates still hasn't been moved as the time of recording as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what ultimately they go ahead and do, whether that is a, David Bednar type trade. Again, Phil Maton's up top of the list. I'm not upset about Mitch Keller. It makes a ton of sense to me. I understand why they're not going for this. He's not going to pursue or push the Jays over the top. And quite frankly, I don't think he'd push many teams over the top into a playoff, starter who could win them a game. Like, you could argue a guy like Dylan Cease could win you a playoff game. Same with Sandy Alcantara. Same with a lot of the other guys. Not Mitch Keller, in the sense of, again, Keller's having a better season than both Cease and Sandy, but it's a bit of a different, vibe and different energy there, especially given the amount you're going to have to give up for a non-rental. Now, let's dive into a few other things. As of late last night as well, John Heyman said that the Padres are working on a potential Mason Miller trade. Not done yet, but they are talking. Miller didn't close in a closing situation tonight. Trade very possible, but nothing finalized. And this is the one where I think the Jays could go all in. And obviously the Padres at this point are favorites for him. I would like to see the Jays just push their chips into the table and probably just go ahead and make a trade for like Mason Miller. I don't think that's something that they're going to do, but I do, it's a dream scenario for me. Like, obviously you'd have to give up probably one of your top two prospects, like either Trey Savage or Arjun Amala, which is a little bit crazy because he is a reliever, but he has control, and I would just kind of like to see that situation. But let me know down below, would you want to see the Jays trade for a Mason Miller type? Like, he's an absolute beast, and he is going to get traded. A manager of the Athletics yesterday, following the game, basically said he wasn't available. That's all I can say. So I would expect him to get traded. My guess is the Padres based on all these reports here. But again, very fluid situations. And I think this is going to be one of the crazier days in recent memory. Like, Ross Atkins has work to do, and he's been moving in silence. A bunch of AL East teams made moves yesterday. The Rays trade Zach Littell right after they beat the loss to the Yankees. Of course, the Yankees have been fairly active, more active than the Jays. The Red Sox acquired Steven Matz. Tons of things are going on for the Toronto Blue Jays, kind of working in silence. And that's either going to be a great thing and prove to be a great thing, or prove to be a bad thing and ultimately realize that, okay, that Ross wasn't cooking this whole time. And I think he is going to be cooking something. And something that I think he could be cooking is, of course, a starting pitcher. Now, let's dive into this really quickly. There was reports that, the Padres again, or the Astros rather, were all in on Dylan Cease. Reportedly now, you can see here, Ken Rosenthal reports that the Astros think they'll be outbid for both Sandy and Cease, and that the New York Yankees are in on Alcantara, but not alone, and that the Astros have engaged in trade discussions for Sandy, but not Dylan Cease. They have cooled. So maybe the Jays should swoop in and grab a Dylan Cease. This is notable, obviously, because for a while, we thought that Dylan Cease was going to be the main target for the Astros, and that has changed now. It is Sandy Alcantara, which is very interesting. The Yankees involved in Alcantara. I don't think they're going to get that done, but it could happen. A couple other things as well here, folks. Again, one of the latest reports from Ken Rosenthal. I know it's kind of all over the place, this video, but it's because there's so much info that I'm trying to kind of tie together here. Things are changing. Do my best, so make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying. But let's dive into this. This was a report from Ken Rosenthal. Like, there's 80 different reporters here reporting a bunch of different things. Essentially, Mason Miller's price is sky high. So kind of dating back, the Jays wanted to acquire him at the trade deadline. We're talking super high for Mason Miller. We're talking super high for, Stephen Kwan. Things are going to be very, very big there. And speaking of Stephen Kwan, we know the Guardians are trying to move Kwan and Shane Bieber. We've heard some rumblings about, I believe, the Dodgers going in after Stephen Kwan, the Padres being heavily involved, I believe it is as well. I mean, they've been involved in everybody. And I think the Jays, as we know, are involved in them as well. And I think that this team is so, in such a good spot right now. The Jays, they need to go out and actually swing big. And I'm hoping that Ross is quiet and everything's quiet in his front, because he's going after bigger fish, not those, middle end guys. Because I feel like they could have beat the offer for Johan Duran, probably not to, top 100 prospects, but beat the offer for Ryan Helsley, beat the offer for Steven Matz. Clearly, they have something up their sleeve, and whether that is a Dylan Cease, whether that is somebody else, that's obviously the big question. I think the Jays could have beat their offer for the Eugenio Suarez, who ultimately went for some decent prospects, but like the market clearly wasn't favoring the Diamondbacks there. So it's interesting. Prices are coming down, things are moving, and we're gonna keep you up to date every step of the way. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are beasts.